Now, hey everybody, this is Solo Fighter, and today we're going to be talking about the Mayweather versus McGregor fight that's going on actually right now. They're still a little bit on the undercard before the fight gets started, but we just wanted to give you this quick breakdown and analysis of what's going on. And Cyrus here is putting up a message for you guys. So, Cyrus, go ahead and you give us a quick message before we get started.
What's up, bitches? Hey, what's up? Glad to be back. Pretty excited for tonight's event. I will not call it a fight, although the fight we're watching live right now is a real good fight. Jack versus Nathan Cleverly. It's nice slobber knocker, real old-fashioned slobber knocker. So I hope you guys are watching this. But this should be a fun podcast. I hope you guys enjoy it.
Yeah, so, I mean, let's just go ahead and get into it and everything. I, for one, do not feel like this fight I don't think it should be happening at all. I mean, but here we are. Here we are. Everybody's buying it. Everybody's watching it. And let's just take it for what it is. This is really an exhibition match that people are paying hundreds, if not thousands of dollars for. But I'm going to watch it. So I just find that really weird that how all of this kind of pulled itself together. Like, what do you think?
Yeah, surreal. Yeah, surreal. It's just crazy. I mean, like, I don't like to think of myself as cynical, but I've been on this earth long enough to know that, and more than ever, this day and age, the world we live in today, money rules all. I mean, all. But I really, I always told myself, I don't want this fight to happen because it's just a joke, and the fact that that McGregor was being given the opportunity to win belts, I was saying at least, I don't want him to go off and fight in boxing because, the two divisions he's fighting in, man, are very solid. And basically what happened is exactly what I didn't want to happen, but whatever. But the one thing I never thought would happen, I told myself the only way it happens is if Mayweather decides he wants to have it happen. Usually when Mayweather wants something, it happens. So when Mayweather said, yeah, I'm coming out of retirement, I was like, it's going to happen. But I always held out hope that the Nevada Athletic Commission, as many times as they've disappointed and just disgraced themselves, I held out hope that they would not make it official. They wouldn't license it, and they did. And then last week, I mean, I wasn't surprised. By then, the fact that they licensed this fight shows they have no respect for either sport. All they care about is money. But then and they just compounded it by allowing them to wear 8-ounce gloves, something they've never done. And it's just one of the biggest no-nos. And I mean, the biggest no-no, of course, is an 0-0 fighter who's never even fought on an amateur level, fighting what I believe is the greatest fighter that's ever lived. So that's just, whatever.
I mean,
yeah, it's going to be fun.
I totally agree with that. I totally do agree with that. It's just weird all around that all of this is happening, and especially even if they label this as an exhibition match, that they would allow it to happen.
Absolutely, and I have no problem with those two fighting. Anybody should be able to fight anybody, except man and woman. I'm not okay with it. But I mean, some people are okay, and there have been man versus women fights. But licensing it is really, it's not good. It's a bad thing.
It's crazy, but like I said, here we all are, right? Here we all are.
Right. Here we all are. We're all watching it.
Right.
We're all witnesses.
We all basically got dragged down the rabbit hole one way or another, whether we're just interested in seeing what will happen, or whether we just want Mayweather to knock out McGregor, or Conor casual fans want Conor to be the king combat sport, guy of the world. I mean, here we are. Everybody's watching it.
Absolutely. And I've got to say, anybody but Conor, Michael Bisping, maybe Fabricio Verdum, because he's pissing me off more and more lately. But pretty much any other MMA fighter was fighting a boxer in boxing, I'm rooting for the MMA fighter. I'm not saying I'm unrealistic. I'm realistic. 99.9% of the time, MMA fighter goes into boxing to fight a top elite boxer, you know what's going to happen. But I'd still root because I love MMA. I love boxing too, but it's just like MMA has been the redheaded stepchild of sports for so long, and it's just, you know, it's beautiful to watch stream, but you know, there's good and bad as well coming into the mainstream because, you know, like Dana and his cronies are doing some really shady stuff, and you know, there's a lot of nonsense, but it was a beautiful thing last year. Yeah, I mean, come on, anybody who's a hardcore fan who's been around like for the last 10 years will know how special that was.
Right.
It really was. Like, I mean, UFC 205 in Madison Square Garden, something like so many people thought would never happen, and it finally happened. But then it was bitter. Now, looking back with hindsight, it was bittersweet because they basically had Conor. They didn't hand him the belt. They handed him an opportunity at the belt, something he didn't deserve. And look what he did with it. Look what he did with it. I mean, he just, you know, it's ridiculous. Like, that's lightweight is just talent laden. Like, you can take 30. I mean, pretty much any MMA promotion, lightweight is always talent rich, whether it's ONE FC, whether it's Bellator, or, you know, whatever. I mean, they have Bama. Bama lightweight is cool, man. There's a lot of good, fun fighters. But I mean, UFC is still the elite. And I mean, you throw a stick at anyone in the top 20, you've got some amazing elite fighters. You know, we're talking about, and, you know, great personalities. And they're all, you know, basically right now they're in limbo, and that's unforgivable. It's ridiculous. It's
we all know why.
Because of that. Yeah, we all know, right? Because, you know, Dana is giving his whatever he wants, and it's ridiculous. Well, again, money rules all, doesn't it?
Yep.
Money rules all. But
I mean, we're not even going to get into the point of the fact that Dana was talking about he was going to give Conor shares or some piece of the UFC, and we're just kind of like, well, you don't offer anybody else that, but I guess that's how
that's unacceptable. You shouldn't do that. Like, if Jordan wasn't allowed to own a team or have any shares in anything until he retired, then Conor, you know, Conor hasn't earned that. Conor hasn't earned that. And I mean, I'm okay with fighters owning a piece after they've retired, but I mean, like, get in line. There's at least 250 fighters that should come before him that fought and bled for years for, you know, not even a percentage of what he made. And not even, I bet you, like, guys like, you know, Forrest Griffin, Stephen Bonner, who are the reason the UFC is still around.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they've earned, like, I'd be very surprised if, like, together, all their career earnings, I don't think they'd scratch 35% of what McGregor's been making the last 2 years.
I definitely
like, he's
agree
been
with
making, that. And I don't begrudge McGregor his money. That's not what I'm saying. But he didn't earn it like they did. And there's a whole fighters that, you know, the mainstream has never heard of. I mean, come on. Robbie Lawler, Matt Brown. Are you kidding me? Like, just, I mean, Robbie Lawler was a champion. One of the greatest champions ever. One of the most spectacular, just entertaining champions. Like, I don't think I'm sure he got well paid, but nothing, you know, underpaid, like all of them.
Compared to Conor,
you know, yeah. And I mean, this guy got paid. GSP got paid. Like, he's the biggest, you know, one of the biggest earners ever, but still, like, he did more for the UFC and for the sport than Conor ever did. Because he, you know, I'm sorry, but like tonight, I know I sound like an old, you know, well, so be it. If I sound, you know, like one of those old curmudgeons, fine, I don't care. There is, you know, there is a purity to MMA that I enjoy, that you know, that made it special, that set it aside from other sports, that, you know, the other mainstream sports. But even this is the irony, like what's going on tonight, there's plenty of mainstream sports that wouldn't allow that.
Right.
The ball, letting the Chicago Bulls take on the Dallas Cowboys. Like, see what happens? No, you know. Okay, I know it's a team sport and all that, but this is kind of what's going on. The fact, if it was just an exhibition, which it is, if it was officially an exhibition, it would be okay. It really would be. I'd still would like the fact that, you know, you're leaving all the in in limbo. And did you see what Dana said? I think it was last night. He backtracked. Like Kevin Lee and Tony Ferguson are going to fight for, I think, the interim title. If I'm not mistaken.
Doesn't guarantee the next shot at Conor McGregor. That's insanity.
Right? It's like they're fighting for the interim title, and how does that not guarantee you the
next
automatic shot? Yeah, the next shot. It's just like what? Well, basically, at least the GSP Bisping fight, because Robert Whitaker is injured.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, the fact that Robert Whitaker and Yoel Romero fought was bullshit. So, yeah, I don't know. Well,
it's all just
Dana's doing his best to. Yeah, Dana's doing his best to undo all the good work he did, and boy, did he do some good work back in the day. The first, it's like Kid Nate says, first 5 years of Zuffa was amazing. They changed the sport. They saved, and they did great things for the sport. And then success happened, and sometimes money changes people, and boy, did it, man. It got abusive real quick.
And it's really obvious now with WME in the picture.
Oh yeah. And then don't even get me started on all the the extra stuff. Tyron Woodley, man, like the whole Tyron Woodley debacle, like what Dana said. I mean, for Christ's sakes, he's your welterweight champion, but Tyron Woodley isn't blameless either. Been behaving, it's not becoming either. Like like it's one thing for him to. I'm sorry.
So let me go ahead and ask this question and everything. Who do you think is going to win this fight? Well, I'll give my opinion. I honestly think.
I'm sorry. I had a bit of a glitch.
Oh, no, you're fine. I was just saying that I was asking who you think is going to win this fight. I was going to say that I actually believe that I'm not going to be crazy and say Floyd Mayweather is supposed to win this fight. It's just how it goes. It's just how it is. And I mean, even being a hardcore MMA fan like I am, there's just no way that you have even a little bit of boxing credentials or a little bit of boxing skill, and you just step into a ring with a multi-division, multi-time champion and say that you're just going to knock them out. Even before this whole entire fight was announced and everything like that, even when McGregor started calling out Mayweather, there's no time for him.
I couldn't agree more. You're absolutely right.
There's no time. There was no time for him between then and tonight to be able to learn the intricacies and techniques to just be able to fight at an advanced level against somebody like Floyd Mayweather. So it's just really weird, and it just doesn't seem possible. But everybody says, "Oh, it's McGregor. We're never going to doubt him again." And here I am doubting him. So I don't want to eat crow and be wrong, but it just doesn't seem like this gap is a type of gap that can be closed in terms of skill. That's why I'm picking Floyd Mayweather on this subject, and that's just hands down.
Yeah. No, it's well, like that's common sense, right?
Yeah.
Common sense states of history states the whatever you want to look at it. If you take the hype out of it and just look at it like, I mean, one of my favorites is GSP. Looking on Floyd in boxing tonight, I'd root for GSP most probably, or whatever. But if someone asked me like, who should I bet on, I'd say, look, the safe bet is Mayweather. He's the greatest.
Right.
And I love GSP, and GSP to me is the GOAT. If not, he's joint GOAT, or you're just under John Jones. If John Jones was to take on, I don't know, Muhammad Ali in just boxing, I'd say I'd lean towards Muhammad Ali and say he'd probably win on points, because it's boxing,
right?
Like, than anybody. He said an MMA fighter has no business in a boxing ring, in kickboxing, or wherever else. He said these guys, that's all they do. They train to be the best at that discipline. We train to be the everything, and
Yep.
that's who was the best at being the complete MMA fighter. He, every facet of MMA he was good at, just like Rory McDonald, just like the great art specialists. And Connor ain't even a great mixed martial arts specialist because he's got holes. You take him to the ground, he's got a distinct disadvantage against elite grapplers. He's an excellent fighter. He's an excellent striker, but he's got obvious holes. He's got obvious deficiencies that you can target. Mayweather is one of these guys. He's just so complete. He's like GSP or no holes because they adapt. Right. McGregor, like you got the guys who just are warriors and they will not adapt. They refuse. They will just go in there and give it their best. And if you can make them miss or whatever, and focus on their weaknesses and go for the weaknesses and exploit the weaknesses, then they'll have trouble because they will not adapt. They'll just keep going. The Diaz brothers are like that. They're very, very complete mixed martial artists, but they refuse to adapt because they're proud there, because they just want to scrap. Yep. It often costs them because if they look what happened when Nick faced GSP. GSP is just like Mayweather. He will adapt because winning is more important than anything. It's more important than
entertaining the crowd. It's more important than making bosses happy. It's more important than doing anything that he wanted to do. He's gonna always switch back into that mode. It's like I have to do what I have to do to win.
Yeah, even like John Jones got it too. Like John Jones, I mean, he'll always be one of the most exciting fighters I've ever seen. It's just a pleasure to watch. But then he had that run where I think for 5 fights he didn't finish because he understood what GSP understood, what the greats of yesteryear, whether it's in boxing, whether it's in kickboxing, whether it's in Muay Thai, is that always looking for the knockout or the finish is not conducive as a champion.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're always looking for the knockout, you will open yourself up. I've seen like 3 or 4 fights where he could have finished his opponent. He had his opponent hurt, but he didn't go looking for the knockout. He waited for the knockout to come to him, and it didn't come because the guy turtled up and knew he was hurt. So he was like, at least I've lost this fight, but at least, get my business not to get knocked out. So I can at least say I stood 12 rounds with him. And Floyd, well, didn't give it to him, but didn't go out of his way to look for a knockout, because when you look for a knockout, you leave yourself open to, okay, you're over aggressive and you're reaching for it, and you leave yourself open to getting countered. And I mean, if you want to be like an 11-time champion, sometimes you can't always finish. You have to fight.
Oh,
and no, there's some.
There we go.
A lot of examples of that. John Jones, GSP. GSP didn't have a finish in quite a while, and people called him boring for it. I never found it. Hey, everybody has a right to their opinion, but I thought it was just a narrative that people used, including Tyron Woodley, who is boring. His last 2 fights were boring because it wasn't that he was, well, that's my personal opinion, but there was like, especially that last one against Damian Maia. He
could actually finish that fight, and I don't think that was a point of him being boring, more than he didn't want to get into the clinch or get dragged to the ground by Damian Maia. But then again, Tyron Woodley is explosive, and he has enough power he could have expounded upon those jabs. He could have expounded upon those hooks that he was hitting Maia with, but he decided to play it safe. And we don't know why, considering that with the jabs and the hooks, he had no danger of going to the ground with Maia. That's what I think a lot of fans actually are just really wondering about, and can possibly, toss the word boring at that.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say, I might sound biased, but he came very close. I'm not saying he did, but he came so close to that Anderson Silva zone where he refused to fight. Came very close. He never stopped, so I won't say it, but he came close because at times he just wasn't moving because he was just so, like, you could tell he was not confident about going to the ground with Maia.
Wow.
Others like Jake Shields or Rory McDonald. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, you can't argue with that. He really should never ever think of going to the ground with Damian Maia. Like, period. Like, I know a lot of people said that, oh, Damian Maia didn't finish George Masvidal. And
he did not, but George. Two things: George Masvidal doesn't gas, and George Masvidal is damn good on the ground. Damn good on the mat. So yeah, you know, like that was very impressive. Like, I know Damian Maia impressed me. Like, in many ways, he came out the winner in many ways of that fight.
Yeah,
he did control because he shut him down, and he hurt Maia bad. He hurt Maia way more than Tyron Woodley ever hurt Maia. But
that's why it's so weird that people count out such a guy as, George Masvidal. I'm just like, don't count Masvidal out. Don't do it.
No, not against anybody. Not against anybody. I mean, I've been saying this for years. For the last 10 years, I've said that. And look what he's doing now. Like, as a welterweight, he's better than ever. And look what he did to Cowboy. Like, on a tear. An absolute tear. And he stopped him. He didn't stop the hype train because it's no hype train. It was just like, Masvidal is nasty. But I just like to say one more thing about Tyron Woodley before we get back on topic. I'm really surprised. No one seemed to catch it. Very few people seemed to catch it or even mention it. The fact that Tyron Woodley blatantly grabbed the cage 3 times. And I know, but it's very important because this was the kind of fight it was, and Afri didn't take a point. He should have taken 2 points because this was the kind of, and first of all, he blatantly did it, and he did it on purpose, willfully. When you grab it underhanded like that, you know exactly what you're doing. When you're overhand, okay, you can say like, it was a reflex. But to grab it underhanded, it takes effort, and that means like, you're not letting go. And the last 2 times he did it were particularly egregious because he was going for a ride. Like Maia had fire on his hips and have his hands together, and he was going to lift him and take him to the ground. I'm not saying he would have choked him. I'm not saying like Tyron Woodley wouldn't have found a way to get back up before, Maia found a submission, but he cost him at least 2 takedowns, if not 3, but at least 2. And he should have had a point taken away.
Right.
And it's that kind of fight. Like, one guy is just looking to take it to the ground. The other guy's trying to stay up. Barely knock him out because, towards the end, I thought for a second he wanted to knock him out, but in the end, it came very clear he just wanted to survive. Like, he'd outstruck him. But then again, Maia made a huge mistake because the head kick was open that whole night. I was shocked he never tried because, his hands were down because they were down by his waist to protect him from the takedown. He was protecting his hips, and rightly so, but they were down so low, and you could tell just by the way his body, like his stance, that he wasn't worried about strikes at all from coming from Maia. So he was ripe for a head kick. So Maia fucked up too, but I mentioned that because I thought that was quite significant, and the fact that nobody seemed to notice or complain that the ref didn't stop and take a point, or at least give down, because he could have done that too. I mentioned it. I think to get back,
everybody was being mad at Tyron Woodley for putting up the fight that he did.
Yeah, well, look, I'm not. Yeah, you can be annoyed, or even mad. Yeah, if you're a paying customer or whatever, you can have your opinion. But one thing I don't agree with is his president dumping all over him the way he did.
Yeah.
Yes. It's not, I'm not even saying it's wrong on it's not right. You don't do that to somebody. But then even like on a businessman level, it's poor. It's a bad look because it's like you're almost trying to ensure that you'll never make money off of Woodley. And it's not hard to make money, you know, like to make Woodley a star, because he looks like a superstar. I mean, he's
Right.
built like one. Even though like he does his best to ensure that he'll never make real money, because, you know, his last two fights weren't exactly easy to watch, but like you definitely don't do that as a promoter.
And as a promoter, you should be pushing as many of your products as hard as you can with the most efficiency, so that you could get a return on them, even as just a money-minded promoter. But it just doesn't seem like he's interested in any of that.
Absolutely. No, it was surreal. It was surreal. But then again, it wasn't that surprising because he's done it before. He'd done it before with Superstar. He's done it to Nick. He's done it to John Jones.
Yep.
He's done it to GSP post
Yep.
167. It was unbelievable. But yeah. But to get back on track, am I supposed to give my prediction or?
Yeah. What do you got?
Okay. Well, I got Mayweather. Big shock there. I got Mayweather by. It's hard for me to call how. It doesn't go the distance. Absolutely not. Mayweather finishes him. It just depends. I can't really call like which round or what part of the fight, because it all depends on how Mayweather plays it. But I see it going one way. I see it going. Well, I see it as I see this fight going. It's going to be a mix to me. Like in my opinion, it's going to be a mix of Gotti and Mayweather.
Okay.
I really see it that way. It's going to be because considering that McGregor is super aggressive, as I think he'll try and grapple with him, and I think he'll try and weigh on him, which is really a dumb thing to do because Mayweather just does not get tired. Lots of people tried. Castillo tried it. Freaking the Argentinian champion guy, the first fight. What's his name? You know, for the world champion. Pardon me?
Because I'm not familiar with boxing.
Yeah. My dad tried it. It didn't work. And Hatton tried it, and it really didn't work. That was beautiful knockout. He scored TKO, whatever you want to call it. And I see it both ways. I see it's going to be a massacre. He's going to.
Okay. So
yeah.
Is the reason why you're picking Floyd Mayweather to get the KO because of the gloves? Because, I mean, a lot of people are saying that, like, Floyd Mayweather has broken hands, and because he just hasn't KO'd anybody in so long. Is it because it's because of the gloves, right?
Yeah. No, the fact that Mayweather was the one who demanded, who asked permission to use smaller gloves.
Okay.
Tells you that, you know, he wants to put a beating on him. I mean, I was already very confident that he was going to stop him before that, or at least put a beating on him. You know, 12-round beating. But after the 8-ounce gloves, I'm convinced. And I think maybe, you know, his hands are better, or he knows how to wrap them so they don't break early. And, you know, I mean, Mayweather, as far as like boxing, like he's the greatest striker of all. He's the most accurate. And he might not even have to hit him that hard. And remember, even when he wasn't knocking people out, trying to preserve his hands, and he was winning on points, or he wasn't looking for the knockout, he was still hurting people to the body. So he could, like a very good friend of mine today, he called it, he said, I think it's going to be a TKO by body shot. And you know what? I agree. I'm convinced, pretty sure that could be that, or just a knockout, like either McGregor runs into something early, because that's probably what he's going to do. He's going to look to charge, or Mayweather just puts a beating on him and just like makes him quit on the stool, throw in the towel.
Oh, that would
like,
be
that's how
good
Mayweather is.
That would be really crazy.
Yeah, but not that crazy when you think about it, because again, this is what 0-0 fighter against who I honestly believe is the greatest boxer ever. So it's not that crazy. To be honest, like if we look at it in the cold light of day, what's crazy is that it's happening. What's crazy is that people actually are making a point. Yeah, are watching it, but also picking like
Conor
people
McGregor.
in the know, like John Morgan, one of the best MMA journalists out there, like, combat sports journalist, one of the best around, is picking. I actually watched the rundown, and he picked McGregor, and people are like saying like you should take McGregor seriously in this fight, which you shouldn't really. Anybody else, you wouldn't. Got it. Like 10 years ago, if GSP had said, "I'm going to go and fight," I don't know, Canelo. Okay, Canelo wasn't Canelo back then, but like anybody, like, okay, here we go. GSP 10 years ago takes on Oscar De La Hoya. In La Hoya was as peak in boxing. GSP versus De La Hoya. That'd be anybody in their right minds, anybody serious journalist or anybody who knows anything about the sport would have picked GSP over De La Hoya. Now it's almost like, like, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you picking Conor? Don't you know he sees these things? Oh God.
I mean, it's just so crazy because I think a lot of these people actually bet against Conor McGregor at some point in time and lost their money. Yeah. And then they're like, you know what?
Right.
I'm not picking against him ever again because I lost so much money betting against him that I think he can do this. I think he could really do this. And I'm just like, well, you're going based on you losing money instead of actually looking at stats and the skill sets here. So
yeah, but that's fine. I'm not saying nobody should do it, but it's it's a little crazy. But like, this is something I've learned. Like, I've picked against McGregor pretty much every time he's fought. And pretty much every guy he's fought since he's been a contender, like since he became a draw or a star, and the UFC started pushing him like never pushed anybody before, I've picked against him because every fighter, and I still believe it, that he fought is better than him, more experienced, stronger, better on the ground, whatever. The thing is, and this is like from now on, especially after Eddie Alvarez, you have to look at his opponent. If it looks like McGregor is getting to his opponent, then there's a good chance, like, his chances of winning go up, like, exponentially. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you, Gerald. Because that means he's getting into their heads, and they're going to fight in a way
that they don't normally fight.
Exactly, which is exactly what McGregor needs. Because, I mean, like Chad Mendes, Jose Aldo, and Eddie Alvarez, they had so many ways to beat McGregor. Like, they could submit him the ground, but like they could take him down. That's just like and they all fell for it. They all listened to him. They all let him get to him or get in their heads, and they all messed up. Chad Mendes is a bit of an exception because he was just clearly out of shape, but still, he did make the mistake of trying to go for a choke when all he had to do was, just stay on top of him and keep him down. And McGregor could do nothing to get back up. But like, look at the times he's lost. The two biggest high-profile losses of his career were against Joseph Duffy and
Nate Diaz.
I forget that. Yeah. Well, no. First, Joseph Duffy got submitted by Joseph Duffy really quick in. Forget the name of that British promotion. It's a good one.
Cage Warriors.
It is. Cage Warriors. There you go. Thank you, Gerald. In Cage Warriors, he got submitted real quick by Joseph Duffy, and Joseph Duffy never listened to his trash talk. Joseph Duffy just doesn't have time for trash talk. He doesn't listen to it. He's just, and Nate Diaz, that's trash talk, but you could see when McGregor would talk, he just didn't listen. He doesn't care. And he didn't let McGregor he didn't get emotional. He didn't let McGregor, he didn't never listen to McGregor. It was more like, I don't care.
Right. And plus, Nate Diaz has way better trash talk than McGregor anyways.
Absolutely, because it's real. It's not put on. It's not an act. It's real.
Right.
It's real. When he says, "I'm gonna fuck you up," it's as real as you get. But and that's why, like, I mean, it was. I mean, even if emotional, I'd still pick him because he's just that good. But look at Mayweather. Look at him last night. Look at him throughout this whole circus. He's been cool as a cucumber. Even when McGregor tapped him on the head, he didn't move, he didn't budge, he didn't care.
Yeah,
and
nothing.
That's why, yeah, cold as ice, man. And that's champions are silent assassins. They're nasty people, and they can keep cool, and they can focus on what's important. What's important is when both of them get in the ring in about less than 36 minutes right now.
Yep.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Yeah, it's very exciting. And by the way, the fight. Yeah. No, go ahead, Joel. Sorry.
No, you go ahead. I'm just here.
I was just gonna say, like, the fight that's about to come right now is really exciting too. Gervonta Davis. His title.
And I'm going to be very honest out there and everything. I don't watch a lot of boxing. I don't watch a lot of boxing at all. It is just does not excite me to see people use only one skill in a fight when you have MMA. But I will have to say that once you know about Gervonta Davis or you've seen him fight, the guy is really, really good, and he makes you want to see him fight because he's that skilled. So
yeah,
I mean, I agree with you that is definitely
and he never fails to bring it. Just like Errol Spence. Hey, don't get me wrong. I love boxing. Always have. I know my boxing, but I have to admit, the last 2-3 years since Mayweather kind of took, it's been hard to watch boxing because the matchups are crap. Everybody's just trying to hold on to what they have, hold on to their rankings or to their belts. So it's not been fun. You've had a lot of matches that should have never happened, like Triple G versus Kell Brook, even though Kell Brook made fun of himself against a monster that is Triple G, but he was clearly, undersized, and he shouldn't have been fighting. But it was still, but that was it. I mean, you had Canelo taking on guys that really had no business being in the ring with him. This year, boxing, yeah, absolutely. But this year, boxing has been good. Like we've seen some great matchups, the matchups that we should have seen, that we wanted to see, and
Joshua Anthony versus Klitschko.
Absolutely, that was a all-time classic. We had Kell Brook versus Errol Spence Jr. That's another great fight. We had some. Oh, we had Kovalev versus Ward. 1 and 2. This year, boxing's been special. We had Canelo versus but okay, as great as it could have been because Chavez just turtled up. But it was still.
I'm not sure either because I did not get to watch it.
It wasn't the worst fight. 2 or 3 rounds. Chavez just told himself, you know what, I can go 12 rounds with this guy. I can stop him from knocking me out, and he barely threw after that.
Yeah, but I will say that he's more than likely going to make it up because he's taking on Triple G coming up not too long from now, and that even as an MMA fan and everything, that's probably going to be a pretty amazing fight considering the skill of both fighters.
Absolutely, it's going to be. Well, it's 2 weeks away. It's 2 weeks away, and it's just going to be awesome. It's going to be it's the 2 best light middleweights in the world, and they're going to duke it out. And I personally think we're gonna see Canelo confirming that he's the #1 pound for pound by beating Triple G.
Oh yeah, I mean, and that's more than likely. But then it's going to be oh well, so is Canelo now the big primetime show of boxing, considering that Mayweather's going to go back into retirement after this?
Oh yeah, absolutely. He already was. He to me, without question, he is the #1 superstar in boxing. when Floyd's not around. And I mean, this fight, it still isn't around because he's not going to be fighting for belts. He's not going to be sticking around. Like, he might. I don't think he will, because I don't think it'll sell, because Floyd's gonna school McGregor. Floyd's gonna just take him to, take Conor to, and just make an example of him. So I don't know how much demand there will be for a rematch. But, at the most, maybe a rematch, or maybe he'll face somebody else that that for the fun fights. He's for an exhibition fight.
Yeah, I mean, I really do expect Floyd Mayweather to retire after this fight tonight, and really, to tell you the truth, he really should. He really just should, and it's not because I don't like him and everything. I really have no feeling of liking him or hate towards him. I just think that he's a really good boxer. So, I mean, I just think that he should retire based on the fact that he is 40 and he just really doesn't have anything else to prove to anybody.
Absolutely. He beat 3 generations. He beat, his contemporaries and the future, just like GSP, John Jones, or Anderson Silva did. So, like, he has absolutely nothing to prove. He did not beat this fight. This fight is an exhibition. Like, this guy on his level. This is just for the money, and he's going to have a nice 50-0 at the end, and he's going to look great. This is nothing close to anything. This is his easiest fight ever as far as boxing, because this guy doesn't have any kind of boxing level. I'm sure, he can strike well.
I'm going to just interject something here. I mean, I really don't think he should get that 50-0.
I agree.
Yes, I do not agree. I mean, yes, I just think it's really weird that you could have such a record and everything as being a champion and fighting an exhibition match when I'm not even a big fan of, Rocky Marciano. But he fought his fights to get that record, and so did Floyd Mayweather. But
exactly,
to get this put on your record, it just doesn't make sense.
No, it's not, because you're not fighting. It's not a legitimate fight. But then again, you can't blame Mayweather for it. You can't. The only people you can blame is the Nevada Athletic Commission. It's their fault. He wouldn't be getting the 50-0 if they hadn't made it. The fact they licensed it's an official bout, and he will be getting it. But you're right. He shouldn't. Not like that. But you know what? Good luck to him. Like, he's going to get it. He'll be happy, and he'll be even happier about the money. He'll, go and celebrate in the Girl Collection or whatever his nightclub is called. I mean, his club is called, and that's that. And he'll be laughing all the way to the bank.
Well, he should laugh all the way to the bank and just kind of drop like a couple of hundreds of thousands of dollars our way. That would be great.
Right? Yeah. No, it's surreal. Really, it's surreal. We're about to watch something surreal.
I know, it's like we're living in the Twilight Zone now, even just talking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, last year we got Donald Trump, Mr. King douchebag himself, as U.S. president, and now we're having this. It's very, it actually makes sense in the sense that when you think about it, we live in the Trump era, that this fight would happen, it would be official. It kind of makes
all the crazy stuff can now happen. Everything is on the table.
You're gonna see, I mean, I can't begrudge Stipe, because they're not paying him right. He's had a lot of issues with the UFC. So, like, and you know what, that fight isn't as stupid as this one. Like, if Stipe were to take on Anthony Joshua, it would make a lot more sense, because Stipe can box.
Right.
And Stipe was a Golden
Glove champion.
He is. If I remember properly, he is, and he definitely competed in there. So just like Cody Garbrandt.
Yep.
And they were never Golden Gloves fighters. But what about the Diaz brothers. Those guys are real boxers, you know, like they can
Right.
box. I'm not saying they go in there and win titles, but they're really
They can
good
actually
boxers.
box.
I mean, for Christ's sakes, they train with Andre Ward. If Andre Ward says you're good, you know you're good.
Right.
That's the other thing about McGregor, where it's like I don't even think he's gonna have even a second where he looks good, because look who he trained with. He didn't change anything. He didn't adapt.
Artem Lobov is walking punching bag, apparently.
Mr. Punching Bag. Yeah, and trained by the genius that is Owen Roddy.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but you know, I'm not a snob. I'm not saying, you know, he has to go to America to be great, but you do need to be tested every time you train.
And I mean, you need to be tested in time tested boxing standards, and it just doesn't seem like that's what they had over there. And I mean, that's not a hit on SBG or anybody and everything. It just seems like they were doing their own thing in preparation for a boxing match, a high level boxing match at that. But yet they don't have the standard from base level all the way to championship level to actually hit and understand. I mean, and that's probably because they, from the time the fight was announced to now, they just didn't have enough time.
No, they did not.
It's really not a hit on them, but something that should have been considered.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, but I mean, like you're fighting. I have this feeling like it's funny. Paulie said something. Paulie Malignaggi has said something very interesting last night. He said live on air. He was telling Brendan Schaub, the problem with Conor is not that he underestimates opponent. It's that he overestimates his own abilities. Like, you know, he walks around thinking he's a superhero or something. And people who think that way, they often have how should I say this? They often have rude awakenings, because, you know, people, when you believe your own hype, you're setting yourself up to fail, and badly, and you know, get hurt. Yeah, Silva.
Mark Diakite.
Yeah, exactly. Recent, and he could. I honestly believe he has the talent. He really does, because he's a special lightweight. Even GSP for it, like against Matt Serra, the biggest upset in MMA history. He got,
still to this day,
he got caught. Yeah, because he wasn't careful. He was rushing in, and he got caught and got hurt, got taken out. So yeah.
Well, we're probably going to see a lot of that here in this match, and I mean that's probably going to be some of his own doing, considering the amount of yes men that he has. But then again, Floyd Mayweather has what? A small neighborhood filled with the yes men?
Yeah, I guess you could say that, but at the same time, I don't think he listens to him. I don't think he would be where he is today if he listened to yes men. I think he has a whole legion of yes men, and then he has the people that he actually listens to, which is his father, his uncles, you know, the serious people.
The serious people.
A lot of the people you see around him. Yeah, you know, like he's different class. He's the, you know, just like GSP was unbeatable and, you know, hard to even compete against because of his style, because of the fact he adapted so well. And, you know, Mayweather's the same. Mayweather is the greatest. I mean, his defensive stats are the greatest, and his offensive stats are some of the greatest.
Fight against Canelo, I mean, what? The whole entire fight, it was Canelo hit him about 17% of his total punches through 12 rounds.
Exactly.
Like 17%.
And it was he put on a clinic. He put on a clinic. It's one of his finest performances ever. Like the technique, the speed, the timing. It was beautiful. And he hurt Canelo a couple times. You could tell. You know, backed off. And Canelo's tough as nails. You know, like you know, he's probably one of the hardest people to knock out. And
Mayweather hurt him.
He's just that tough. He's got an iron chin.
Right. Mayweather hurt him, and then he just outclassed him, just in insanity.
Absolutely. And, you know, it wasn't even close. It wasn't even close. So, and Canelo is like 1,000, 1,000,000 times the boxer McGregor will ever be. And I'm not saying this is a slight on McGregor. It's just the
But he's
truth.
just
I mean,
a boxer. He's a boxer. He's a real boxer.
mhm. Exactly. He's a real boxer. Been at it since he was like a 6 or 7 year old, just like Mayweather. Mayweather started training at 3, for Christ's sake. He started learning to move his head and bob and weave from the age of 3. So, like that's why it's not absurd to assume that Mayweather is going to have his way with McGregor.
Well, I'm pretty sure
So,
we're going to see it here in a second. But I mean, even
oh
still,
yes,
I mean, I'm going to say that I'm not terribly ashamed to say that I'm watching this fight, but I just still find it a a little bit weird and interesting at the same time. So, hey, it is what it is.
yeah, yeah. It's a guilty pleasure, but it's a pleasure.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Yeah.
I've said what I've had to say about the Floyd Mayweather versus McGregor fight. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's going to cause a lot of problems in the boxing world, and they're going to be like, "Oh, hey, we were going to beat McGregor anyways," and everybody's going to go back to watching MMA.
Exactly.
And then McGregor's probably going to take another year off and tie up the whole division again. But I mean, hey, like I said, like you said, guilty pleasure, and here we are. So I mean, do you have any other thoughts or anything else that you want to say?
No, I'm good. This was a lot of fun. Well,
Yeah.
we'll probably do an episode, a quick shot episode tomorrow or something to like our immediate reactions to what happened if we have the time. But we've said everything we needed to say, I think.
All right. Well, I mean, thank you, fans, for joining us for this Mayweather versus McGregor just quick analysis before the fight. Thank you for being here. Just tune in next time, and this is G, and I am out. Cyrus.
Everybody enjoy the fights. Cyrus out.
All right. You all take it easy. Don't forget to like and subscribe our channel, especially if you like what we're doing. All right.